Mayoral Memo with Matthew Dickerson from Dubbo Regional Council.
To you at 12 minutes to 8. Time to catch up with the Mayor of Dubbo Regional Council, Matthew Dickerson, on the line. Good morning, Matthew.
Good morning, Iain. Good to be chatting to you again.
Nice to have you on the program. And I guess it's been a fairly busy week for you. You attended the Macau Kranti Kite Flying Festival last Sunday. We caught up with chat from the festival there earlier in the week. But how did you go there? Did you have a go on a kite?
I'm actually got to admit, Iain, that there are 3 kites less off after my participation in the event. So
you crashed them, did you?
Well, crashed would be assuming that I got them up in the air high enough. The first one went okay, actually. It was up flying and there were lots of kites in the air, and I ended up crossing swords with one of the other kites, and mine ended up in a tree. The second and third kite, well, I got them up just high enough to be crashing down to the ground and destroyed. So it was a good event, and it's one of those things, Iain, that because we've got such a diverse, multicultural community now, we are learning about various festivals and events from all over the world. And that event is one that happens in India as people are coming out of winter into the spring months. They want to get outside and do something active, and so they have that kite flying festival. So it's great to learn about those things from around the world, even though I couldn't fly kites fantastically.
And Chad explained to us too all about some of the customs behind the festival and the reason for it, and the Harvest Festival. They also had a feast. But it is a fantastic, diverse event for our community, and we can only learn by being part of it. Also, to the Uangla Wind Farm, you've had some inquiries coming in now since the sod turning.
Well, it's actually interesting, Iain. One of the things that's fascinating there is that people are really interested in renewables, but they've got lots of questions about them as well. And there are 37 different projects around our renewable energy zone. They're at various levels. Some of them are already running there. Some of them, as you saw a week ago, we had a sod turning for the Uangla Wind Farm. And some people have been asking me questions about that in particular. One of the issues is that council is not the consent authority for these renewable projects. They're state significant developments. And so we don't always have all the answers, but some of them are very specific. So I've actually given you there an email address and a mobile phone number for contacts specifically for the Uangla Wind Farm, because someone talked to me about the roadworks and exactly where the roadworks are going and the time frame and the schedule and where the turbines are. Some of those very specific questions, that's why they've got these contact details. So I'm happy, and Squadron Energy is happy if you give out those details on air for anyone that wants to find out more details about that project in particular.
We will be doing that moving forward. In fact, we covered a story this week of some locals with concerns about it, concerning the fact that the turbines are going to be 150% larger than what was originally planned, so there'll be less of them. But up in New England, the distance between the turbines and non-participating landholders was set at 2 k's. They've moved it to 4 up there, and I know they're asking for that here. There are concerns about some of the harmonics coming off those turbines. So we'll be certainly looking at both sides of that topic as we move forward. Now, also to the December 2023 tourism market report, figures not quite the same as previous Decembers.
We had a slightly softer December, and I like to get these various tourism reports and market reports through. We get them through each month just to have a look at how things are travelling. When you compare December 2023 to 22 and 21 and 20, the month was a bit softer. Now, one of the things that's important to remember here is that tourism went very well during COVID, which sounds crazy because people couldn't travel around during COVID. But, of course, people in Sydney, for example, couldn't go overseas. They couldn't go interstate. So a lot of people, when we had restrictions slightly lifted, started coming to regional areas. So we're coming off some very strong months. But essentially, most of our tourism facilities were down, and even ones that we don't own. So the zoo and the Royal Flying Doctor Service Visitor Experience Centre, some of those were down a little bit. 2 that were up, the Western Plains Cultural Centre, it seems to be going from strength to strength. Now, of course, it had the Archibald exhibition in the middle of last year. That wasn't in December, but I think people discovered a lot more and want to keep going back to the Western Plains Cultural Centre. And the Wellington Caves went up, although a year ago, we had part of the caves closed because there was an issue with part of the caves there. So that's probably come up on the back of that. Some of the other figures, though, down, maybe down 5% over the previous year, some even maybe a little bit higher than that. So we've got to look at that. And I suppose the important thing, Iain, is that was 1 month they were down. Is that a trend or was that a blip? we'll have a look at those figures again at the end of January and just see if there's anything we need to do to try and address those figures.
Also, a meeting held this week too with one of the proponents of the 60 affordable housing 3D printed houses. These people are looking to secure land they might need for the project.
Well, this is very exciting, and on the back of the concept where council has reserved 4 blocks of land for 3D printed housing, and then of course, as you know, we printed an amenities block and that created a lot of interest. We actually had inquiries from 2 different developers. One developer's looking at building some Aboriginal housing in Dubbo. Another developer is looking at doing 60 affordable homes. Now, we know that we've got a rental crisis in Dubbo. It's so hard for people to get rents, so hard for people to buy housing. There's a lot of pressure on pricing. And the way you solve that is by having more availability. The supply and demand scenario will help with that problem. So this particular developer has been talking to council, spoke to me during the week, and is really keen to come out to Dubbo. And one of the things that he loves about the concept of 3D printed housing is he can build 60 houses, build them cost effectively, make them affordable for people to buy or rent, but also make them very different. And if you just normally went and built an estate with 60 houses, as he explained it to me, and logic says the same thing, you're going to build those houses basically the same because it's going to be cheaper to build them. So you end up with an estate that all looks the same. What he loved, and the person I spoke to was an architect, he loved the idea that he could have 60 homes still built cost effectively, but all look very different because of the efficiencies of 3D printing. So that's exciting for Dubbo, an exciting concept. And that's all on the back of what we've done already around 3D printed homes. That brought Dubbo to the front of his mind and then wants to go and develop this project.
And of course, the 3D printed toilet block in West Dubbo there, that's a learning experience too. And I think only good can come from that because processes can be refined, can't they?
Well, that's right. And I don't have any issues at all with that. We've seen some of the minor cracking there, but concrete does get minor cracks in there. It's not as if it's structurally unsound. It's serving a job. It was built very quickly. It was built much cheaper than other toilets we've seen, similar type toilets that we've seen built. So that was a really successful project, but also means that we know more about 3D printing and other organisations know more about 3D printing as a result of that project.
Matthew, I'll grab an update for you on this one too. In April last year, Council voted to lease out the council-owned property at 139 Darling Street to the Conservatorium of Music. Now, what's happened there?
Well, nothing, which is an interesting one because I know there was some urgency around that particular lease, and the Department of Education, who owns the building the Conservatorium of Music is currently situated in, was saying to the Conservatorium that they had very limited time frame. So the Conservatorium needed to find somewhere pretty urgently because then once they secured that site, they had to do the fit out so they could actually have students come through. And so Council in April last year resolved that we would give them that building. This is the old carpet building next to the theatre. Give them that building at a peppercorn lease rate for 5 years, and then we had another extension in there for 5 years after that. So Council was very happy to do that. I think the Conservatorium is an incredibly important facility for Dubbo, and we don't want to lose that. And that was part of the reason Council has made that decision, because we didn't want to lose it. We've been talking to them about signing that lease since then. That hasn't actually happened, and here we are in January, halfway through January the next year. The Department of Education seems to have relaxed somewhat on pushing them to move out of that building. I don't know if they've got a new time frame there. We'll keep talking to the Conservatorium of Music, but I suppose the important part here is we can't leave that offer on the table with them forever. We didn't put any timetable or any sunset on that offer to the Conservatorium because we assumed it was going to be urgently required, but we will have to keep having discussions with them in the future to see whether or not they do actually even need that building anymore, or if the Department of Education is going to allow them to stay in their current building.
Certainly, and also to wrap us up, we've got about 30 seconds to go. The Australia Day celebrations in brief for next week, Matthew.
6:30 p.m. in Wellington on the 25th of January. We've got Reese Muldoon as the ambassador there, and then in Dubbo at 8 a.m. in Victoria Park, we've got Sam Cawthorne as the ambassador there. I really encourage the community to come along to Wellington or Dubbo, or both, in fact, if you wish to do so, and really be part of just saying what a great nation Australia is.
Matthew Dickerson, Mayor of Dubbo Regional Council, as always, thank you for your time.
My pleasure, Iain. Thank you.
Mayoral Memo with Matthew Dickerson from Dubbo Regional Council.